Last time you saw this car, it started, and I don't know why. I still don't know why, but I'm not complaining. Anyway, let's do some work on it now. Hello, welcome back to the Mercedes. I've decided to take a day off from the lovely Rover because it is continuing to try my patience even off camera. These scars up my arm are from trying to do a very minor job, which turned out to be something else, and then, you know, next video on that one, yeah. Stupid car. Anyway, right, there were a couple of reasons why this car didn't continue running the other day. Partly because the alternator wasn't connected and the water pump wasn't connected, so I've been shopping. Unfortunately, the alternator bolt, which I thought was going to work, was slightly too short. It's a really long bolt it needs. Looking online, prices for a W123 alternator bolt ranged from £12 to £70, which seemed like a lot to me. Then someone told me about an actual fixings shop. They sold nothing but nuts and bolts from a warehouse. I went down there, explained what I wanted, and I bought 2 of them because I didn't know exactly how long, because they're 41p each. So yeah, I will now fix the alternator on with my 41p bolt. And in fact, I had to go and buy a box of nuts and bolts to go on the other end because I needed to make my £5 minimum payment go up. Perfect. It's actually slightly long, but I'd rather have it slightly too long than slightly too short. Oop, and a couple of, very, very shiny nut and bolt indeed. Let's try to spill all of them. Oh! Let's got 100 of them, so it doesn't matter if I drop one. And before I adjust it up, let's put the fan belt on. This, for some reason, as I said before, the correct size seemed too short. So this one is 1000mm. Wow, it's still too short. I don't believe it. That's the longest one they had in the shop, and it's still too short. So having guessed how long we might need for this fan belt, anyway, drive belt we would call it, auxiliary drive belt if we posh, that even guessing was the wrong length. So what I've done is I've put the alternator in about the middle position, got some string, so I can just run that down the length of where it's going to be. So that's how long a belt I need. So I'll go and measure that, and that's my answer. Right, so it's the next day again. Teacup very much in order. I've now, through process of bits of string, established that what I need is, I think, 102 centimeters. That looks really short again. That looks really less than 102 centimeters. 102 centimeters. Oh, you're joking, that's too long. Yeah, you gotta. What I actually found was I needed a 102 centimeter one. The nearest they could get was a 105, and that's actually going to be too long. I have to phone them up nicely and say, please can they change that for the right size one, and maybe I can do that one tomorrow. Meanwhile, I will figure out where the drain plug is on this and change the oil. Now this is actually quite a novelty. I need to move the car backwards like a metre or so that I can actually get to the front and get a jack under it and do the oil change. But I can just turn the engine on, well, in theory, fingers crossed, touch wood and all that, and move it backwards all on its own. There's no brakes, so I've put some chocks of wood on the floor behind it, and I'm only going to run it for about 20 seconds just to move it backwards. I'm not going to run it longer than that because I know the radiator water pump isn't working. Oh yeah, this is also the first time to find out whether or not the transmission actually works or not, so that's going to be an adventure as well. Okay, this is very, very exciting. Foot on the brake, even though it doesn't actually do anything. Brake is on. It started yesterday, what's going on? Fuel, yep, fuel gauge moved. Nearly. Right, let's put the phone down because I'm going to need both hands for move it into reverse. Oh gosh, handbrake does work, that's good. Transmission works. God. Oh, that really wants to go. I'm amazed how keen that car is to drive. And my wife's new Mini's behind it, so I don't really want to go too far backwards. Okay, that'll do, I think. Handbrake. It just drove on its own for the first time since I've owned it. It drove on its own. Oh wow, that's exciting. This tyre mark in the tarmac gives you an idea of how long the car has been sat here for. Well, now I've pulled the car out far enough to get in front of it and kneel in front of the thing. I can see that the Mercedes have made life very easy indeed, because the drain plug for the sump would appear to be right here at the front. You just reach under with a spanner and you're there. I like this car a lot. I'm expecting this to put up a fight, so I've got my longest breaker bar extension-y thing. Right, here we go. Oh, it didn't actually struggle even a little bit. That's kind of weird. It's an old Rover P6 windows and door parts lying under here for storage. That's basically only finger tight. That is incredible. This car continues to just amaze me. That is very black, horrible oil. That oil has got to be close to 20 years old. While that is draining out, I can change the oil filter, which appears to be a cartridge type up here on top of the engine. I was watching Rich Rebuild's latest video the other day, which was the Audi RS7 service, and I was actually amazed. He'd never seen a cartridge type oil filter before. I guess if you only work on American cars, then you wouldn't encounter them so much, I suppose. I don't know how many of my cars have had these. Not too bad, not too grim. Ah, there's a little handle on top as well. How clever is that? And because it's all draining out the bottom of the car right now, it's not too full of oil. There we go, yuck. Not too bad at all. That is actually a long way from the grimmest oil change I've ever done. Virtually didn't struggle at all, and this is a proper genuine Bosch oil filter here as well. That's that big O-ring, that can be replaced. Where did the two little ones go? I can't see any sign of them. Ah, one on top. I suggest one in the bottom. Beautiful, made in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Thanks guys, I'm sure you did a great job. Oh, I've lost my little bag of O-rings and things, there we go. This was astonishingly cheap for this little whole collection of bits and bobs. I mean, it weighed in about £5. So this is the first oil change this car has had in almost 2 decades. Long overdue. I don't want to waste money and time fitting a new oil filter and oil and everything, because oil's not cheap. On an engine, it wasn't going to work. I mean, if that engine hadn't fired up, I was going to electric convert this. Still might. Trying to drop it into the goop. That's never fun. Ah, yuck. And would you look at that? I mean, I don't know if this is doing it justice in terms of how revolting this is. It's not just dark black, it's more like a browny maroon colour. It's disgusting. Yuck. I wonder how many litres this I need to replace it with. Right, a quick check on the line. Tells me this car takes about 5 litres of oil apparently for a dry fill. Crikey, that's stiff. Okay, you didn't see that. So far this has been one of the easiest oil changes I've ever done. That was a surprise. I don't think I've ever even taken this oil cap off since I've had the car. But look, no cam belt, no head gasket fail. It's all a lovely colour. Now I didn't actually have 5 litres of the same bottle. I've got lots of bottles of 1040, which is what this car apparently takes, semi-synthetic. This one's got about 1 litre in it. There's always the risk in my garage I'm going to accidentally pour a bottle of used oil back into an engine one day. Because it's such a faff to go up to the local tip and get rid of it all. I've got about a dozen bottles of oil, so if I do go, I'm going to look like an actual professional garage that's trying to get away with not dumping their oil legitimately. probably about 1.5 litres there. This is Triple Q 1040 semi-synthetic, which is, I think, Euro Car Parts' own brand, isn't it? 2.25, almost 2.5 litres in there, so I've got nearly 4 litres across these two. And finally, I've got some of the actual nice oil, Mobil Super 1040. This is far better by a long chalk than the other ones. About 1 litre of this. Oh, so let's give this a quick pull on the dipstick. See where we stand. Bang on. Lovely, clear, shiny, golden oil. And apparently, not falling out the bottom either, which is always good. It's funny, this car suddenly seems to be cooperating. Everything seems to be going a bit too well. So while I've got the bonnet up, I'm just going to quickly check the state of the spark plugs. These were new when I started tinkering with this car. Never actually driven the car anywhere, so apart from today, that whole metre, or 2 metres. Just want to make sure not too furred up or coked up, whatever you want to call it, tarred up, because they've just been churning and churning. Oh, there's no rubber bit in this stupid thing. Oh, I need to get a new one of these spark plug holders. I'm never going to do the spark plugs on the Rover with this thing knackered. Do you know what? That's only a little bit charred up. That's not too bad. And that was running pretty well before, so I'm going to say we've got good spark plugs there. Now I was looking into the cost of a new warm-up regulator, and second hand they're still about 300 quid. New they're 500 or 600 pounds for these warm-up regs. So the fact that this one, I don't know, is working or isn't, is a bit unclear. I have taken it off the car once a few videos ago, and well, nothing appears to be user serviceable, so I didn't really know what to do with it. I will clean all the connections on it though. One thing limiting me from driving this car too far is the fact it's got no brakes. The handbrake seems to be really good, but the actual foot brake is non-existent. So I think I'm going to have to change, well, obviously all the discs and pads are going to be well past it, but in addition to that, I reckon I'm going to have to change the calipers probably, and I would expect I'm going to have to change all of the hard and flexi lines, because you know, they're not going to be looking in great condition, are they? Well, the hard lines might be alright, but the flexis are definitely going to want doing. And there is currently 0 fluid in that reservoir, so does brake fluid evaporate that much? It must be leaking somewhere. I think around the back of the car, it was a bit manky there actually, around the back of the car where the fuel lines were just rotted through, the brake lines were in the same state, so they all want replacing. The difficulty with a spark plug spanner that doesn't have any kind of rubber grommet in the back to hold the plug in there is keeping the plug in there long enough for it to fall straight into the threads, not go cross-threaded and ruin the engine. Right, for now, shiny spark plugs again. That's good. Right, now what? There isn't physically a lot I can do to the warm-up regulator, but I can give all the connections a good clean-up with some electrical contact cleaner. And the more I use it, it seems, the more easily it starts every time. Yeah. Got a face full of stuff now, let's hope it's not poisonous. I'm sure it isn't. Now to roll this thing back into place for the night while I wait for my fan belt to arrive. Do I dare start it again? There is previous of a neighbour putting a car through these fences and into the ground below, so I'm not 100% sure I want to do that. So what do you reckon? Is that the cold start regulator, or is that the fuel pressure regulator that sits up by the pump and filter? There you go, finally. 1025mm by 10mm fan belt does the trick with my new 41p washers. It's pouring with rain out here, so I think I'm going to get in the car. Well, the weather has definitely turned, but I'm done as far as this video is concerned. It's got fresh oil, it's got a fresh filter. It still starts, but I've got literally no idea why. Let's try it again one more time quickly. So yeah, there you see, the alternator light is out, so the alternator is now working, fantastic, great oil pressure, revs are sitting nicely, everything's looking good. I'm very happy indeed. Now, in answer to a couple of questions off the last video, changed the fuel pump, changed the fuel filter, changed the fuel filter in the engine bay, I've changed the fuel lines, I've rebuilt the fuel distribution block, I've changed the fuel injectors. What else have I done? We did take the fuel metering unit apart and rebuild it, but didn't really change anything, so no parts for it. But that was a while ago, and it hasn't started since then, but has now. What else have we done? Basically everything. The only thing that hasn't been changed is the sediment trap at the bottom of the fuel tank, but the car hasn't moved, so the sediment won't have been disturbed. So I'm very confused. I've no idea why the car started. Well, I've got one idea, and that's basically that the modern ethanol petrol has dissolved some blockage. That's really the only thing I can think of that will have changed. So hey, I'm not complaining. It works, and it still works now. So yay, go Mercedes. The other possibility is that it literally has sucked the soul out of that Rover convertible, because that will no longer start. I don't know. Well, thanks for joining me. There's more to do on this car, lots more to do. In fact, you need to complete your renew the braking system. You need to pop the wings off and check they're solid on the inner wings underneath. I think they are. They probably need some under seal. There's a couple of corrosion spots on the rear sills, which I'm hoping aren't too serious. They're always going to be too serious. Yeah, a bit of paint on the bonnet has been repainted badly in the past, and that's bubbling up with some rust underneath it, so that needs a cosmetic respray. Then we're virtually ready for an MOT. Well, new tyres and wheels. I think the wheels look really nasty. Wow, it's suddenly happening. This is quite exciting. Join me again soon when I probably won't be doing this car because I need to get the Rover sorted and gone. But yeah, join me again on another car very soon indeed. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.